New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gil.
I'm Robyn.
And this is Rockin The Love. And we are coming to you this Wednesday morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it may be where you are. And we do this every week. And we're happy to be here. Are you happy you joined us? I hope so.
So today we are going to talk about why we take on too much. Yes, why we take on too much. And the title of our show is Enough is Enough. So there you have it. But in the meantime,
Enough is enough. I love that.
Okay. But in the meantime, like us, love us, click on us, do all those things that social media asks you to do, please. And so that you help us improve our algorithm and we show up in more places. So, how are you?
I'm okay.
Are you present?
Spent.
You seem
no,
a little
I'm not really present at all.
Oh.
It's an interesting feeling.
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure what it's about. It's partly about this weird thing in my shoulder that immediately starts hurting when I sit this way for whatever reason.
So Gil has been experiencing a pain in his shoulder for the past couple days. And even though he went and got chiropractic care, it is just a little bit better, but it's not fully better. And it does seem to take him out of the game. So if you see him adjusting and shifting, and we'll just decredit it to that. Being a little spacey, that's part of the reason. So.
It's my tummy. I am very spacey today.
Oh, gosh. All right. And, we have a wonderful producer, Michael Mangus, who I'm going to ask to multitask right now and pray for us because clearly I'm doing the show alone. So I'm going to risk it, though. How's your week?
My week was okay. As you said, luckily you gave up your chiropractic appointment yesterday, and I got in, and it helped a lot. But it's a bizarre thing, and it just certain way I sit doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I just sit in a particular whatever, it hurts. I can't change it when I drive, when I do all those things. So like right now, it's just really, really hurting.
Okay, well, we know that we have an audience full of healers and people that can send positive vibes and help you move that through your body.
And I'm sure if my chiropractor was watching, she'd be telling me I needed to do some stuff.
Well, yes.
But in trying to do that, it's still there. So anyway, that's distracted me. And it feels like a lot happening as normal, and the happening stuff feels a little overwhelming. So there you go. When is enough enough? Enough is enough. Something like that.
All right. Yeah. So I have a feeling the answer to that question for the next few weeks is going to be hopefully not as spacey, but similar to being overwhelmed. We have a lot on our plate, a lot of exciting things, and
phone calls coming in left and right.
a lot of exciting things, and yeah, life is exciting. Gil's having an ordination. We're having an open house. Things are busy, and so I feel very pulled in many directions because I seem to be doing a lot of things and contributing in a lot of places. So, yeah, it's feeling overwhelming, but I'm not claiming that for myself. I'm really looking at it as a place and a space to pick and choose what I want to do and what, is really in the best interest of not only everybody else, but myself. So that's how my week has been. I can't even think about a week. I'm like, what a week? What has happened? It's like every day is like a new week. So that said, we're going to go to the good news because there's lots of good things happening in the world. And tell us about them, Gil.
Well, there's a gentleman in the UK named Mark Cody, and he has been hearing comments like this one. I feel 20 years younger. And let's see, what else do they say? They just say lots of things like that. I feel 20 years younger. I feel so alive, et cetera, et cetera. He started something called Lamborghini to give rides to older people who tended to be in more isolated situations and perhaps not getting out as much as they could or should or needed to. And he's made arrangements with owners of McLarens and Lamborghinis to allow these folks to drive their car for a little bit. And they go out for a drive, and people just have an incredible time. And I think the touching part about this is he always promised his mom that he would take her for a ride in a Lamborghini. And then she took her own life from loneliness because she didn't ever get out. And he realized how important it was to actually show up and be there. And so now he's doing it on a regular basis with everybody. So I thought it was a cool story.
That is cool. Very cool. About connection.
Mm-hmm.
My story too is about connection. However, it is a little more self-serving as I've been asking for a hot tub for many, many years. Not that Gil doesn't want to have one. It's not on him, but I just want to say that it is beneficial. My story is about how it is beneficial. Hot tubs are truly there to be a health thing, and that taking hot baths and hot tubs could lower blood pressure. And tests show that after many years of study that it could not only reduce your risk for blood pressure and diabetes and different heart diseases. And that's pretty much, that's the gist of it. I mean, there's studies and things, like I said, about blood sugar and diabetes, and taking I think it was like 3 hours a week of hot tub could reduce not only blood pressure and diabetes, but body weight, and just it lowers the markers for different things in your blood level. So not only do we need one because it would help us relax, but it's also healthy.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go.
And aren't those all the same health benefits of the wine that they show the people drinking in the hot tub?
That's okay. I'm open to you you getting wine as well. So all things are good. So that's our story. That's our good news for the day. I think, any way you look at it, it's all about connection to yourself, connection to others, and just the joy that that can bring. So when you come back, you are going to not only see a new and improved Gil, because I'm going to make him do jumping jacks so he brings his energy into his body while we're gone, but you'll see us both back here ready and willing to talk about why do we take on so much. So don't go away. Come right back here to New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you. Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
Hello and welcome back to Rockin The Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil.
And we are talking today about why we take on too much. Enough is enough. Oh, so this conversation actually started obviously from personal experience. If you follow us at all or even just stopped in for the check-in, there's a lot going on. And I think more than that, there's a lot going on in the world. And so why do we tend to take on more than we can? I mean, obviously, it's not more than we can because we do. But why do we tend to do that sometimes to a point that is uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm. I think we push ourselves really hard. in some ways, I think because we think we're supposed to, we think there's some imaginary thing that we're supposed to achieve, and I think many of us aren't even sure what that is or what the timeline is, but we think that we're behind it.
Maybe I think that we think we can, and I think it sort of starts like an uphill, train or something where we go, okay, yeah, I could do that, and then before you know it, you've taken on more than you really are comfortable with, and I think that it's also we're I think we're all trying to out I don't know. I don't want to say, I'm not sure what I mean. If outlive or outgrow or outdo or prove a story that we can, or that we're capable of this, or that only we can do it the right way, or what if someone does it the wrong way if I let it go? You know what I mean? I think there's always like some core story.
Well, I think that's, in some ways, that's the illusion of grandiosity, that we think that we are so important that, no one else can do it right. If I'm not there to make sure it happens, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen the right way. It's whatever it is, And so I think there's an aspect of that goes on in this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm curious because, when we started talking about this topic, we talked about it like we're doing right now. And then it quickly morphed into becoming enough, being enough. And so it's what we accomplish, or how we accomplish it is very much tied to being enough, right? Like, oh, I should do that, or I should be able to do that, or they need me to do that,
Mm-hmm. Which again, I think ties back into that underlying belief that, there's this whole thing that we are unique, special individuals, while at the same time, if we're all tied into the same thing, we're all the one thing, then all of the potential and etc. exists for each one of us. So to believe somehow that whatever happens to us is more specialer than what happens to others, or whatever we do in our lives is more special than what others do in their lives, or whatever that is sort of this illusionary human thing.
Well, yeah, yes, and even though I said those things, and you're saying those things, I think there's still something else going on underneath it, that where we basically confuse the capacity of what we do with how valuable what we do is, or how valuable we are.
So like the volume of what we do versus just doing what we can do. Like we're trying to, if we think that we have to fill up the giant bucket in order to have value, when in fact we just need a cup full of whatever it is, and that would be very valuable.
Well, there's that, and I'm thinking more like we believe that us being capable and helpful and productive and friendly and or endlessly available, always there to say yes, I'll do it, that's how we earn belonging. That's how the people like us. That's how we fit in. That's how we find that place. And I think sometimes we keep stretching to make sure we're not outstretched.
What's interesting is what strikes me when you say that is it's sort of the other side of what I was saying, and that was this idea that we think we're special and so we're required and all that stuff. Well, at the same time, we think that we have to prove our value. I mean, it's very interesting that the two of those things sit side by side in this process.
It is interesting, and I'm not sure. I mean, as we're talking it through, I'm not sure like if they're on two sides of the coin or if it's all part of the one. I'm sure it can be a both and. Because I think at the end of the day, I don't know, because when I ask myself the question for myself, I don't get this answer. But I think many times we're just trying to outrun the story, like, oh, I better do it because otherwise it won't get done, or I better do it because they don't do it the way I do it, or if I say no, then what will they think? Somebody will get mad or be upset with me. If I stop, if I rest, if I don't do it, then the momentum will be lost and it won't get done.
Well, or even if that particular thing I'm thinking about doesn't get done, everything will fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, I think often we think that we take on another item, another detail, another thing, and we don't go, you know what, that's a great idea, and it would really add to what we're doing, and it's not going to happen because I don't have the capacity to do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming I'm the one that's to do it, but it's not going to get done by me.
Right.
Is the point being, and that may or may not really have a detrimental effect at all on anything. The fact that it's not being added to whatever's happening. I think sometimes we just pile on so much that we think really should be happening during something, or should be a part of the design, or should be a part of what we do, and we end up we end up missing the fact that enough, it's always enough. That's the reality. I mean, if we really believe in oneness in spirit, it's always enough because there's always enough there.
Yes, and and if we don't do it, I mean, what you said, if you don't do it, again, that disrupts our story. So if my story is, somehow I'm finding self-worth in all that I do, because then I believe, look at all I do. Look how great that is. Not in a bad way.
Right.
Just in a way, but what happens when I find out someone else can do it?
Or that when it doesn't get done, it doesn't fall apart.
Right.
That kind of thing, right? Well, it's interesting because it also brings me, I think a whole part of this enough is to realize where we can do what we can do, in terms of whatever we're working on, and trusting that that's what needs, that is in fact enough. Whatever it is enough. And if I need to take a break and do something else and not finish this particular project, or not take on this project, that's not detrimental necessarily to anything. And I just think about this whole concept with the open house that we're creating for the center, and how you came up with one of the very first times we talked about it, with we should really invite everybody in the whole center to be a part of it, and we could have a big thing for everybody, and all the different stores could participate, and wouldn't that be great? And we all said, yes, that would be great. And we all kind of went, we're not, it was not that far in advance we were planning, because, this is all pretty new. And we're like, okay, well, let's just not push that. let's invite everybody, let them know we're doing it, but let's not try to, convince everybody to be involved. And then, as it turns out, another couple of places in our little strip mall have an event that they are planning and doing on the same day at the same time to invite people to come in from the outside.
Right.
And so in fact, we are participating with other folks in the area doing the same project that we thought about doing, but we didn't really do it. We didn't create it. We didn't make it happen. We went ahead and made what we were trying to do. We're creating what we're trying to create, and the rest of it took care of itself.
So you're saying that sometimes you're doing enough when you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
so to speak.
That sometimes, that we don't always have to orchestrate all of it in the world.
We don't. But that's not. But I hear you and I agree with you, and I don't think. That to me is more of a spirit calling conversation, right? Relaxing into the. It's okay. I get it. Okay, I get the connection. It's okay to let it go.
Right.
It's okay to let it go, but I think we're talking about more on that personal level of really what we take on as individuals.
Well, yes, I agree with you, but I just that I know that was an example that's on a more corporate level, but I think the same thing happens in our individual lives. The same kind of thing happens. We think we've got to take it all on, and we don't even know necessarily what else is happening, and what other things are conspiring around what it is we're doing. That bag will not stay there. So
that is a bag of ice that keeps falling for those of you that are tuning in.
Keeping track, writing down things.
Gil's pain in his back. Yeah. So what I think about that is too. It is a matter of listening and paying attention, and I think that if we bring that back down to the small version, like when do we, how do we listen to our bodies and our minds and what's happening? And I think that plays a part in, taking on too much and enough is enough, because it's like, when do we listen to the message to know that's not yours to do, or to stop, and especially if you spent years and decades and, lifetimes pushing past that place where your body says, yeah, no, too much. You're already in too deep. Because then you take on, and then overextension becomes familiar. It becomes a safe place for you, and I question that with me, and I'm like, I keep trying to figure it out, because people ask me all the time, how do you do it? And I think there was a point in my life where when people asked me, felt like, hey, yeah, well, how do I do it? Oh, I don't know, I'm super special, but I don't really think it's that anymore. I don't. I think, it's like, I don't know how I do it. I do it because it needs to be done. And because I keep thinking that I get the message that it's mine to do.
Yeah. And I think, for me, I think about, sort of that balance between, or having the discernment, having the ability to discern between what is it that's not mine to do, or what is it that is mine to do, versus when am I shirking responsibility? When am I not living up to what I've committed to, kind of concept? Whether it's specific or whether it's just a general commitment to, this is who I show up as, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about that a lot, because we've talked about, our giving 98% looks like somebody else's 110, and so we can slide with a lot of things because we know, we're not, because we can. I don't know. We just can't. And so in essence, it's like, are we ever giving 100%, on some level? And I also think as a spiritual, do you want to say something about that?
Well, I'm just thinking that idea of, there's something about that concept of giving 100% where there, guilt feelings of inadequacy, whatever, get attached when we're not, quote, giving 100%. Now, how is that evaluated? I don't really know. But in ourselves, we make an evaluation of some kind to decide, well, I could have done better and I should have done this and that would have been good, and perhaps enough is the idea of figuring out where is 100% of my capacity to work with in this case or in this part of my life. I can't give 100% of my life to any one aspect of my life, but I can give 100% of what's available for that aspect.
Right. I think if I was to break it down in a spiritual way, if I was doing the workshop, I would say that 100%, when you break that down, 10 or 20% of it goes back to you being nourished and nurtured and taken care of. And I think though that, this conversation is particularly relevant to people on a spiritual path, people that are looking for spiritual growth. And I say that because when we're in this movement of, it's all good, it's all God, and we're really trying to be with what's calling us, then we feel that pull towards more possibility and more service, and more willingness to create, and I think that's, it's like a danger Will Robinson kind of thing. It's like, it's a warning in some ways that spiritual expansion and growth doesn't necessarily mean, depleting yourself and giving all that you've got.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. 100% of what you need to pour into that is not necessarily 100% of your life and your being. And I think that's where sometimes we get confused, because there's so many aspects to what living means that there's no way you could put 100% of yourself into anything. Really. It's only 100% of what your capacity is for that you can put in.
So so forget the percentages. How do we know just when it's time for us to let go, not take it on, do something differently than might feel familiar to us? How do we know when our, when that inner voice or when our soul is telling us, take it easy, slow down,
I think that's, where the discernment comes in and where we have to become aware of, are we really stepping up from the perspective of growing in our spiritual understanding of following the call of spirit of, whatever the nice spiritual thing we want to put on it is. Are we really coming from there? Are we coming from guilt or shame or some need to show others that we're really okay in this area? Right? Those are that's the distinction. Are we really doing it where are we coming from when we're doing it? Are we coming from a space of love and joy and giving, or are we coming from a space of need to get something, and that's why we're doing it?
Yeah, great questions. I think those are great questions, and I think they're definitely something that you should be aware of. But I'm going to share.
You should be aware. Did you mean me, or
No.
did you? Okay.
No. But I'm going to share with you my conversation with Lumi, my AI, and I think what Lumi said was that here's the part that most people never name, that we take on more than we can because we haven't yet believed that the universe works with us, not because of our effort.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's your...
Well, to me, that's very similar, because it's the idea that we have to prove something. There's something we have to bring to it personally that can't otherwise be done, when in fact we forget that the universe is in all of it.
Well, also, if we stop doing this, if we stop doing, will the good still come?
Mm-hmm.
If we soften, will it still matter? I mean, I think about like the No King's March and the stuff, and then I start to feel guilty, like, God, I haven't sent out any postcards. I haven't, worked with the charities that I usually work with, or the organizations, on causes, and like, well, does it matter? Does it matter? Yeah, not in the big, does it matter? Yes, everything we do matters. And if I'm still holding that consciousness, and I'm still holding that place, and I'm still holding that intention and all of those things, and doing all the other things I'm doing, have I really taken away from something else?
I think the what we have to put in requires constant refreshment. And so if we don't have the space to refresh because we're trying to give to so many things, then we eventually run out completely. We run down to the place where we're ineffective in our giving. And so the fact that one might not be, sake of example, as you said, writing postcards right now, does not mean we are not being effective in our lives, raising the consciousness of that. It may be in a different place, in a different way right now. But if we tried to do all the ways that we could be doing that, and trying to stay on top of them all, we would find that we would start depleting pretty quickly, I think. Because there's 100 things at any moment in front of us. And if we were to choose to try to do all 100 of them, there's no way we could do it.
Oh, don't challenge me. No, but
There's no way I could do it.
I think that, like those questions, and the questions we ask ourselves, it then turns it into spiritual questions, and, clarifying questions disguised as like scheduling problems, because we start to try to figure out how to make it happen and when. So, when things shift, I don't know. When do things shift?
Well,
Or how?
I'm looking at one of the of the notes you have up there that your enoughness is not measured by output. And I think of, being in a position like I am as a spiritual leader of an organization. There are a lot of ways where I could look at it and go, my output does not live up. Look at the numbers of people that we serve. Look at the number of dollars that we are able to raise. Look at, all these different measurements, right? And at some level, they do not equal what some others, many others, most others may be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't the measure of enough-ness. The measure is our commitment and our willingness, I think. And our self-awareness enough to know what we can take on and be effective at. There are people that are effective at schmoozing the crowd like crazy. I'm a little effective at it. But there's other things I'm really effective at. And so if I spend more of my time over here and not over here, it doesn't affect my enoughness. It's a different, everyone's enoughness is measured differently, if you will. And in fact, it's really only measured differently because we look at how the gifts come out. The reality is that in spirit, the enoughness doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It's the fact that we're here is enoughness.
Okay, and you're a very enlightened spiritual person,
Oh yeah, I'd love to be.
With a lot of training and stuff in your past that has led you to this moment. And so I hear you say, well, we're enough because we're here. Great. So then tell me, if I can just use this example, why is it that we find ourselves falling short so much of the time? Like when you go to that place of falling short, why isn't it that you can just replenish by going, it's enough that I'm here? Because it's on some level, it's not enough, because you then want to tell me it's not enough because you're not doing enough. It's not looking the way you want. It's the la 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 la. So, and I'm not belittling you. I'm just saying, because I think this is the normal human pattern. So how do we really go beyond that, and grow beyond the difference of like growing and proving to ourselves, what is the truth, the spiritual truth that you're saying?
Yeah. I think that's the constant learning in terms of being human. That's the constant learning. Because I think the internal mechanism, the way the mind works, the way our ego works, if you want to call it that, the way we're taught, all kinds of things lead us in this direction of believing that we are constantly evaluated and therefore we must live up to whatever that evaluation is. And in some ways it's true, we are constantly evaluated.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And, if I wasn't fulfilling my job, I would be evaluated in a negative fashion. If I'm not, fulfilling my marriage, I would be evaluated in a negative fashion.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just saying, so all of that makes that next step difficult because it's it's not completely natural, and it's banking on a belief that is beyond what we see. The fact that I am enough is beyond what I see in my life experience.
So
It's beyond the people that would criticize or, all of that,
okay.
or fire me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that was my hesitation with what you were saying, is that if you were at your job, you would, and you were doing your job, you would get a negative evaluation. If you were in your marriage and you weren't holding up the parts of your marriage, you would get evaluated, and the only thing that came up for me, and when you just said whatever you just said, was that it's not really a negative evaluation. You would get evaluated, period. What you're the one that decides if it's negative or positive, right?
Mm.
And so, which takes us back for me, to spiritual principle, because yeah, there is the cause and effect. If you're working and you have a boss that you report to, there's going to be an evaluation, negative or positive. I think we make the call in that, negative sounds like it's bad and that we don't get anything from it, where that meant that's the way many people learn, right? I mean, I think even with all of this enoughness, there's a nervous system to enoughness. There's a nervous system to our body and our mind and all that we're holding on to. So whether like, look, when you get a pain in your back, like our chiropractor said yesterday, you have got to take the space to come out of the shell, otherwise you're going to blow out your lower back. And she gave you the spiritual metaphysical reasons, and so it's like everything is working together for our good to give us the information, and so how do we really evaluate the signs, however they come, to just lead us to the next step? I mean, yes, we could have started the show, or we could say right now, everybody, we are enough. God is, we are. Spirit is, spirit. The divine lives in me. The universe creates in this beauty and this infinite wisdom, and that's who I am. And we could be done with it. And the truth is that our human selves have to keep remembering somehow and shedding that, right? Shedding the part that makes us go, yeah, but.
Well, I think you hit on something really important, and that's when you said it's only negative when we decide it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's only positive when we decide it is.
Absolutely.
It's walking away and just kind of going along the metaphor of being fired or whatever because you're not doing a quote good job. Well, yeah, you may not be doing a good job in the parameters of what they wanted. So their evaluation is you don't fulfill these requirements. Does that make it bad? Not necessarily. It just is information. The information is either I don't understand it, I don't know, I'm not talented at it, I don't care, I don't know, but it's an indicator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's an indicator. And I can either walk away from that indicator going, I am a real failure because I didn't, I got a bad evaluation and I didn't live up to this. Or I can go, well, what do I learn from that and where do I go from here?
Mm-hmm.
It's back to that idea of, celebrating those moments where we have an open space in our lives and going, okay, so what am I being called to? Since the information I've received this isn't it over here. This wasn't it. So what am I going to do now? Where am I going to go? What do I need to learn? What do I need to do? And it becomes information, but it doesn't make us less enough. It actually makes us more in tune, potentially, with how to show up in our enoughness. To how to find the place where we can have the rhythm of giving to the point that we don't burn ourselves out and we're able to contribute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I think there's a lot here. It seems to bleed into many categories, but I think it's just really important to be with how, our enoughness is shaped by everything in our life. And, really going back to spiritual principle and trusting and knowing, who we are is a baseline, to even just, the tools I would leave you with is to really just be able in that moment of overwhelm. And for me, it happens mostly when people are asking me to do something, and someone who I admire or who, I trust calls me and says, I just want to ask you if you can do one thing. And I'm like, and I really have to take that breath and pause and ground and remember who I am and really what's going on in my life. And again, I'm not totally, I guess underneath it all, it has something to do with my enoughness, even though I'm not convinced of that yet. But for sake of the fact that we're almost out of time, I'll go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not convinced that that's where it's coming from for me. I think there's other things. But for if that is indeed, what happens for you, it's just a time and a place to take that breath and remember the truth that, you're here on purpose. And the fact that you're here is enough. And that enoughness really isn't a finish line. It's more of a frequency, that it's not somewhere we arrive at. It's somewhere we return to because we continue to go back to spiritual principle and the truth of knowing who and whose we are. And that in every moment, it's the love and the spirit that says you already are. You already are enough. You already are magnificent. You already are that child of God. So
just, I think about the song by Ray Davis, Average Man.
mm-hmm.
And, what if you were built for greatness? What if you were, what if this idea that I barely can do anything is just that, an idea in my head, versus what if I had the idea I'm here to do something? And what is, I'm here to do something, to be something, to offer something to the world. What if that's my mission? Not I'm here to just kind of make it.
Well,
and that's that whole idea of it's the value we put on it ourselves.
yeah, and I think on some level it's the difference between growing and proving, growing into who you are and who you've come to be, or trying to prove that you are that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so God doesn't prove. God doesn't go, great, let me make more flowers in the field because they're not seeing enough flowers or whatever. God doesn't prove on demand, I should say. Anyway, a lot to contemplate, a lot to think about. What? Why
No,
not?
I'm just laughing because it's like it becomes this sort of big conundrum, there's so much there. There's so much in there. And there's so much of it has to do with just really accepting and loving ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere it's got to come down to that, because that's the key.
Well, which is exactly why our title is Enough is Enough. Because it doesn't have to be proved, it has to be remembered. We have to remember the truth of who we are.
And rather than saying it, enough is enough, it's enough is enough.
Well, that's a whole nother show, because I think I interpreted that title totally different than you.
Okay.
But because I hear Barbara Streisand singing in the background. Enough is enough. I can't go on. I can't go on no longer. So I have a whole different soundtrack in my head.
You sure do.
I sure do.
You sure do.
And that's what makes us so interesting to watch. And that's what's made married life for the past 24 years
So interesting.
so interesting. Anyway,
Interesting.
so if you find it interesting, we'll be here next week, folks. So in the meantime, just keep rocking the love, because the
Rock
world
on, my
needs it.
friends.
Peace.
Peace.